I built that cabin with my bare hands over 3 summers, pouring every ounce of love into each wooden beam. For 8 years, my marriage was everything I dreamed of, until Kate decided I was not enough anymore. The divorce left me with almost nothing. She took the house, the car, half my savings, but somehow I kept the cabin. It was my sanctuary, my one victory, until yesterday when I pulled up to see her luxury SUV parked in my driveway. My heart stopped cold. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment below and hit subscribe so you do not miss how this nightmare unfolded. Montana always felt like home to me, even before I officially moved here. The mountain air just did something to my lungs that city living never could. I grew up watching my grandfather craft beautiful wooden furniture in his workshop in rural Washington, spending every summer learning how to transform raw lumber into works of art. By 16, I was designing and building small structures, tree houses, garden sheds, anything that let me work with my hands. After architecture school, I specialized in wooden cabin designs, finding my niche, creating luxury wilderness retreats for wealthy clients, seeking escape from their high-pressure lives. At 32, I had established a solid reputation in Montana and neighboring states as the go-to architect for authentic yet modern mountain homes. I met Kate at a design showcase in Bozeman. Her real estate firm was representing several properties featured in the event, and she approached me about potentially collaborating on future projects. With her flowing auburn hair and confident smile, she commanded attention in any room. I was immediately drawn to her ambition and energy, so different from my methodical, patient approach to life. Our relationship moved quickly, too quickly, looking back. Within 8 months, we were standing at the altar exchanging vows. Everyone said we complemented each other perfectly, her drive and social connections paired with my creativity and craftsmanship. We should build our own place, Kate suggested one night, as we lay in bed scrolling through property listings. Something special just for us, for our future family. The idea took root immediately. We spent weekends exploring remote areas, searching for the perfect spot to build our dream. 6 months into our marriage, we founded 5 acres of pristine woodland, bordering Lake Jackson with mountain views that took your breath away. The property was isolated enough to feel like our private sanctuary, but still within reasonable distance to Bozeman, where Kate worked. I emptied most of my savings account to cover the 70% down payment. Kate contributed the remaining 30%, but since I paid the majority, the deed listed me as the primary owner, a detail that seemed insignificant then, but would later prove crucial. The cabin design became my obsession. I drafted and redrafted plans for months, incorporating every element we dreamed about: large windows to capture the mountain views, a stone fireplace as the heart of the main living space, a wraparound porch for summer evenings, and even a designated nursery for the children we planned to have. What about this space? Kate pointed to the lower level on my blueprints. Could this be a playroom when the kids are older? I added her suggestions, envisioning our future children running through the rooms growing up, surrounded by nature, just as I had. The basement would house my workshop, where I could build furniture and teach our kids the craft someday. Construction began in spring, 3 years after our wedding. I continued taking client projects during the week, but dedicated every weekend and vacation day to building our cabin. Kate visited occasionally, but her flourishing career kept her busy in the city. The Montana weather challenged me at every turn. Winter came early and stayed late, giving me limited building seasons. I battled unexpected spring flooding that required additional foundation reinforcement. Summer brought relentless heat that warped wood if not properly handled. Yet each obstacle only deepened my connection to the structure, taking shape under my hands. I sourced local timber, selecting each beam personally. The stone for the fireplace came from a nearby quarry, each piece carried and positioned by me. The hardwood flooring was hand-laid board by board. Every nail, every joint, every finish was applied with loving attention to detail. 3 years passed this way, me shuttling between our city home and the construction site, sleeping in a tent during building season, until the cabin became habitable. Kate grew increasingly distant from the project, her initial enthusiasm fading as her career demanded more attention. The day I completed the final touches, a hand-carved banister for the staircase leading to the second floor, I stood back and felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. The two-story cabin stood proud against the mountain backdrop, its large windows reflecting the lake water. Inside, the stone fireplace dominated the main living area, surrounded by built-in bookshelves and comfortable seating. The kitchen featured handcrafted cabinets and a breakfast nook overlooking the forest. Upstairs, the master bedroom had a private balcony, while the second bedroom, the nursery, waited empty but hopeful. When Kate finally saw the finished product, her smile seemed genuine. "It is beautiful, Liam," she said, running her hand along the kitchen counter I had, polished to perfection. "You have created something truly special." That weekend, our first in the completed cabin, felt like a new beginning. I believed we were finally ready to start the next chapter of our lives together. Looking back, I wonder if she already knew it would be one of our last weekends there as a couple. The first sign something was wrong came when Kate started finding excuses not to visit the cabin. First, it was work commitments. Her real estate business was booming, with more wealthy clients seeking Montana property. Then came vague mentions of networking events and industry conferences that always seemed to fall on weekends. "You go enjoy your mountain retreat," she would say, with a dismissive wave. "I need to focus on my career right now." I tried to be understanding. After all, her success was something I had always supported, even when it meant spending time apart. But the distance between us grew beyond just physical miles. When we were together in our city home, Kate was perpetually distracted, always on her phone, jumping at notifications, stepping outside for calls. The scent of unfamiliar cologne occasionally lingered on her clothes when she returned late from client dinners. I ignored the warning signs, telling myself I was being paranoid. Until that Tuesday evening when Kate left her iPad on the kitchen counter, the one we shared for household management. A message notification flashed across the screen from someone named Brett. Normally, I would never invade her privacy, but something about the preview text made my stomach clench. "Cannot wait to see you tonight." He has no idea, does he? My fingers moved before my conscience could stop them. The messages revealed a 6-month affair with Brett Matthews, her firm's managing partner. Intimate exchanges, hotel receipts, plans for their future, all laid bare in countless messages scrolling before my eyes. I sat at our dining table until Kate returned home at 11 that night, the iPad placed prominently between us. Her face fell when she saw it, then quickly hardened into defiance. "Were you planning to tell me?" I asked, my voice barely recognizable even to myself. Eventually, she replied, crossing her arms. "This was not how I wanted you to find out." What followed was a conversation that shattered the foundation of everything I thought we had built together. Kate claimed she had outgrown our relationship, that Brett understood her ambitions in ways I never could. "You have been so wrapped up in that cabin, Liam," she said, as if my dedication to creating our dream home was some kind of character flaw. "When was the last time you came to a networking event with me? When did you last show any interest in elevating your career? Beyond building houses in the woods." Her words cut deeper than any saw I had ever handled. In her eyes, my passion for craftsmanship had become a liability. My contentment with creating beautiful, meaningful structures rather than chasing bigger contracts and higher profiles was somehow a failure. The divorce proceedings began 2 weeks later. Kate hired Martin Feldman, one of the most aggressive divorce attorneys in the state. I was served papers while working at the cabin, the courier looking apologetic as he handed me the envelope that would formally end my marriage. My attorney, a friend who offered his services at a reduced rate, warned me immediately that Kate was playing hardball. "They are coming for everything, Liam. We need to decide what you are willing to fight for and what you can let go." In the end, I lost our city house. Kate argued successfully that her career required her to remain there while my work could be done anywhere. My truck went next, deemed a luxury asset that could be liquidated. Half of our joint savings disappeared into her accounts. Even furniture I had built with my own hands was deemed marital property to be divided. But the cabin became the unexpected battleground. Kate initially demanded it as part of her settlement, claiming she had contributed to its purchase and construction. Her attorney filed motion after motion, dragging out the process and draining my remaining funds. The turning point came when my attorney produced the property deed with my name as primary owner and documentation, showing my 70% financial contribution. Additionally, we presented my construction logs, material receipts, and photographs, documenting the thousands of hours of personal labor I had invested. Mr. Roberts single-handedly built this structure, My attorney argued before the judge. Mrs. Roberts contributed minimally to its creation and has shown little interest in the property over the past 2 years, as evidenced by her absence from it. The judge ruled in my favor, declaring the cabin separate property with no further claims possible from Kate. It was my one victory in the settlement, but it came at tremendous cost. By the time the divorce was finalized, I had exhausted my remaining savings on legal fees. Kate seemed surprisingly unconcerned about losing the cabin. "Keep your little woodsy hideaway," she said during our final meeting to sign papers. "Brett and I are looking at properties in Aspen anyway." With nowhere else to go, I moved permanently to the cabin that fall. The irony was bitter. The home I had built for our family had become my solitary refuge. The empty nursery door remained closed. I could not bear to look inside. The first 6 months living alone at the cabin were the darkest of my life. Montana winters are unforgiving, and the isolation felt crushing. Some days I barely found the energy to keep the fireplace going. Client work dwindled as I neglected to pursue new projects. Many mornings I wondered what purpose I had left. The turning point came unexpectedly. My grandfather passed away, leaving me his collection of specialized woodworking tools and a letter encouraging me to build something new from the broken pieces. The inheritance was modest, but it sparked something within me. I began renovating the cabin, channeling my pain into transformation. The nursery became a home office with built-in workstations and state-of-the-art communications equipment. I converted the basement into an expanded workshop with proper ventilation and lighting. Solar panels replaced the generator system, making the property largely self-sufficient. As spring arrived, I launched an online business selling custom furniture designs, leveraging my architecture background to create unique pieces that quickly gained attention in design circles. Working from my remote location became a selling point rather than a limitation. Clients appreciated the authentic craftsmanship coming from my mountain workshop. The cabin evolved into something far beyond the vacation home Kate and I had planned. Smart home technology controlled lighting, security, and climate systems remotely. A satellite internet connection kept me connected to clients worldwide. I added a garden that provided fresh vegetables during summer months and expanded the deck to include an outdoor kitchen. For the first time since the divorce, I began to invite friends to visit, fellow craftsmen, former architecture colleagues, neighbors from the scattered properties around the lake. The cabin filled with laughter again, though in a way I never originally envisioned. By the 1-year mark after the divorce, I had found a new rhythm to life. The pain had not disappeared entirely, but it had transformed into something manageable, even occasionally productive. I was building a new life plank by plank, day by day, just as I had built the cabin itself. I never imagined Kate would re-enter the picture. Why would she? She had made it abundantly clear that my world, my passion, my cabin, my lifestyle held no value to her anymore. But life has a way of delivering the unexpected, usually when you least prepare for it. Last Friday started like any other. I drove into town for supplies, specialty hardwoods, for a commissioned dining table and groceries for the week ahead. The 2-hour round trip was my main connection to civilization these days, a journey I made every couple of weeks. When I turned onto the private road leading to my property, something immediately felt wrong. Tire tracks that were not mine marked the dirt path, wide luxury tires that had no business on my rural access road. Rounding the final bend through the pines, my suspicions were confirmed by the gleaming black Range Rover parked in my driveway. I recognized it instantly as the type of vehicle Brett Matthews featured in his social media posts. My stomach knotted as I pulled alongside it, noticing Montana plates with a custom frame from Kate's real estate company. Before I could process what was happening, movement caught my eye on my front porch. A young boy, perhaps 6 years old, was playing with toys on the handcrafted rocking chair I kept outside. A little girl, slightly younger, peered through the railing beside him. The front door of my cabin stood wide open. Walking toward my own home suddenly felt like trespassing. My palms sweated as I approached the steps, the children watching me with curious expressions. "Hello," the boy said, holding up a plastic dinosaur. "Are you the forest ranger?" Before I could answer, Kate appeared in the doorway, looking somehow exactly the same, yet completely different from the woman I had married. Her hair was shorter, highlighted with expensive-looking blonde streaks. Designer sunglasses perched atop her head, and a glass of white wine, my wine from my refrigerator, dangled casually from her manicured fingers. "Oh," she said with practiced nonchalance. "The homeowner returns." The casual way she said it, as if I were the unexpected visitor, sent rage coursing through me. "What are you doing in my house, Kate?" I managed to keep my voice level, aware of the children listening. "Just showing Brett and the kids our weekend getaway spot," she replied, emphasizing the word "our" with a smirk. "The lake is exactly as beautiful as I remembered." Before I could respond, Brett emerged from inside, carrying what looked like my favorite coffee mug. Tall, tanned, with the confident bearing of someone accustomed to getting his way, he extended his hand as if we were meeting at a business function. "Liam, good to finally meet you. Kate has told me so much." I ignored his hand, focusing instead on the interior of my cabin visible behind them. Suitcases stood in the entryway. Food containers sprawled across my kitchen counter. Unfamiliar jackets hung from the coat hooks I had carved by hand. "You need to leave," I said flatly. "Now." Brett laughed, a sound of genuine confusion. "There must be some misunderstanding. Kate arranged our stay weeks ago." I looked at my ex-wife, who maintained her composed smile, even as something cold flickered in her eyes. "No misunderstanding," I said. "This is private property. My private property." The little girl tugged at Kate's designer jeans. Mommy, who is the angry man, Kate, smoothed the child's hair. "This is Liam, sweetheart. He built this cabin a long time ago." "For you, Mommy?" the child asked innocently. The question hit like a physical blow. These children, presumably Kate and Brett's, had no idea of the history within these walls, no concept of the dreams that had been shattered here. "Yes, for Mommy," Kate answered, staring directly at me with challenge in her eyes. "And now we are going to use it sometimes." Brett placed his arm around Kate's shoulders, his expensive watch glinting in the sunlight. "Let us be adults about this, Liam." Kate explained everything. "The cabin was part of your shared assets, and she is entitled to use it occasionally." "That is not true," I stated firmly. "The divorce settlement was clear. The cabin is solely mine." Kate's smile tightened. "Well, that is being revisited. My attorney filed paperwork last week claiming the original settlement failed to properly account for my contributions." She stepped closer, lowering her voice, though not her intensity. "We need a vacation home, and I always loved this place. The kids deserve some mountain air. Besides, you live here alone. Surely you can share on weekends." When I remained silent, processing her audacity, Kate's expression hardened. "We are staying the weekend, Liam. You cannot do anything about it. Cry to the court if you want. By the time any judge hears the case, we will have established regular usage." Brett, seemingly oblivious to the true situation, began pointing out features of the cabin. "The craftsmanship is quaint, though we would modernize considerably. That stone fireplace is excessive. A gas insert would be cleaner. And that rustic furniture would need to go." Each word felt like sandpaper against raw skin. He was critiquing my life's work, planning to erase my imprint from my own creation. The children had wandered inside, and I followed, automatically protective of my space. What I saw heightened my distress toys, scattered across my living room floor, suitcases, open in the guest room, unfamiliar toiletries lining my bathroom counter. They had moved in as if they owned the place. Kate trailed behind me, cataloging changes with evident surprise. "You have done quite a bit since I was last here," she observed, running her hand along the new kitchen island. "The nursery is different." She pushed open the door to what had been the planned nursery now, my modern office space, with triple monitors and custom built-in desks. The custom woodwork remained, but the purpose had completely transformed. "You removed all the nursery features," she said, something unidentifiable flickering across her face. "I had no use for a nursery," I replied simply. Kate moved through the cabin with increasing bewilderment, noting each change, each upgrade, each sign that the cabin had evolved far beyond the rustic retreat she remembered. The smart home controls embedded in the walls, the solar battery system display, the professional-grade workshop visible through the basement door, all of it revealing that this was no longer just a simple cabin. Brett appeared less impressed, focusing instead on the wine collection in my custom rack. "At least you have decent taste in Cabernet," he commented, pulling out a bottle I had been saving for a special occasion. The final straw came when Brett announced, "We will take the master bedroom. Kate mentioned the view from there is spectacular." "No, you will not," I stated firmly. "Because you are not staying." Brett drew himself up, using his slight height advantage to look down at me. "Listen, buddy, we drove 3 hours with tired kids. We are staying the weekend whether you like it or not. Kate says she has rights to this place, and I believe my wife." The children watched our confrontation with wide eyes, the innocent bystanders in an adult conflict. My anger warred with my desire not to traumatize them, but the invasion of my sanctuary felt unbearable. "The master bedroom has been converted to my private quarters," I said evenly, "and none of you are welcome to stay in any room. This conversation is finished." Kate stepped between us, her voice dropping to a harsh whisper. "You always were stubborn, Liam. But you cannot force us to leave. What are you going to do, physically remove us? That would look wonderful in court." Her smirk returned, confident in her perceived advantage. "You cannot do anything about it. We are here now." In that moment, looking at her triumphant expression, I realized something important. Kate still thought of the cabin, as it had been 3 years ago, a simple structure without resources or protections. She had no idea what it had become, or what I had become. I took a deep breath, centering myself. My attorney had warned me about possible scenarios like this, though I never truly believed Kate would be this brazen. "I need to grab something from my workshop," I said calmly, noting the flash of victory in Kate's eyes as she interpreted my statement as retreat. "Take your time," Brett called after me. "We will get settled in." I descended to my basement workshop, hearing the children's excited voices as they explored upstairs. The sound sent a pang through my chest. Children in my cabin, but not the ones I had once imagined. At the far end of my workshop, hidden behind a custom cabinet, was the control center for my comprehensive home automation system. What had begun as a simple security upgrade after the divorce had evolved into something far more sophisticated. Every aspect of the cabin, electricity, water heating, cooling, security communications, was controlled through this central hub. I activated the security cameras installed throughout the property, watching the displays as they showed multiple angles of Kate and Brett unpacking in my living room. The children were bouncing on the sofa I had reupholstered last winter. With steady fingers, I texted Sheriff Mike Daniels, an old friend who had become a reliable ally during my time living full-time at the cabin. Possible trespassers at my property, ex-wife and her new family, claiming rights to the cabin, contrary to divorce decree. Documentation ready. Could you assist? Mike's response came quickly. On patrol nearby. We'll head your way. 20 minutes. Next, I called my attorney David Parker, activating the video recording feature to document the conversation. Kate showed up with her new husband and kids, I explained quietly. Claims she filed for partial ownership rights. Is there any legal basis to this? David's response was immediate and reassuring. Absolutely none. Your sole ownership was clearly established in the final decree. Section 8, paragraph 3, specifically states she waived all future claims to the property. I have received no new filings from her attorney. I forwarded several camera feeds to David's email. They are refusing to leave. Documenting everything now. Perfect, he replied. Any physical evidence of forced entry? They used a key, I admitted. I never changed the locks after she stopped visiting years ago. Not ideal, but not fatal, David assured me. The decree still forbids her access without your permission. Keep recording, stay calm, and let the sheriff handle removal if necessary. Armed with legal confirmation, I returned upstairs to find Brett opening another bottle of my wine, while Kate directed the children to set up their toys in the corner of the living room. I just spoke with my attorney, I announced calmly. There have been no new legal filings regarding this property. The divorce decree clearly established my sole ownership with specific language preventing future claims. Kate faltered momentarily before recovering her composure. Your attorney is mistaken. The paperwork was filed last Tuesday. Also, I continued, as if she had not spoken, I have activated security cameras throughout the property, documenting this unauthorized entry. Brett lowered the wine bottle, frowning. Security cameras. In a cabin. This is not just a cabin anymore, I replied, gesturing to the discreet camera in the corner ceiling trim. It is my permanent residence, fully modernized and secured. I turned to the smart panel on the wall, bringing the system to life with a touch. The lights dimmed and brightened at my command, demonstrating control. Every aspect of this house is monitored and controlled digitally, including, I added with pointed emphasis, detailed records of entry and occupancy. Kate's confident expression began to crack. This technological sophistication was clearly unexpected. The rustic retreat, she remembered, had transformed into something far more formidable. You are bluffing, she tried, though uncertainty had crept into her voice. This is ridiculous overkill for a vacation home. This has not been a vacation home for 3 years, I corrected her. This is my residence and business headquarters. Headlights swept across the windows as a vehicle pulled into the driveway. The sheriff's distinctive SUV came into view, the official logo visible even in the fading evening light. I have asked Sheriff Daniels to join us, I explained calmly. Since you refused my request to leave, voluntarily. Brett's arrogant demeanor instantly shifted to concern. You called the police over a family misunderstanding. This is not a misunderstanding. I corrected him. This is trespassing on private property. The children sensed the tension, the younger girl beginning to whimper. Kate moved to comfort her, shooting me an accusatory glare, as if I were responsible for frightening the child. Sheriff Daniels knocked once before entering, his imposing figure filling the doorway. In his 50s with salt and pepper hair, Mike had the calm authority that came from decades of peacefully resolving mountain community disputes. Evening, Liam, he said, nodding to me before turning to the others. Folks, I understand there is some confusion about property access here. Brett stepped forward, extending his hand. Brett Matthews. There is indeed confusion. My wife has partial ownership rights to this cabin, and we arranged to use it this weekend. Mike did not accept the handshake. Instead, he turned to me. Do you have the property deed and divorce decree handy? I retrieved the documents from my office safe, including the specific section David had referenced. Mike reviewed them carefully, while Kate and Brett exchanged increasingly worried glances. Mrs. Matthews, Mike finally said, using Kate's new married name, deliberately. According to these legal documents, you have no ownership claim or access rights to this property. Section 8, paragraph 3 states, you specifically waived all future interests in this real estate as part of the settlement. That cannot be right. Kate protested, though her voice lacked conviction. My lawyer said. Your lawyer can address this through proper legal channels, Mike interrupted. But tonight you are on private property without the owner's consent. That constitutes trespassing under Montana state law. Brett's face flushed with anger. Are you serious? We drove hours with our children. I sympathize with your situation, sir, Mike replied evenly. But Mr. Roberts has sole legal right to determine who accesses his property, and he has asked you to leave. Brett turned to Kate, disbelief evident in his expression. You told me this was arranged. You said we had legal rights to be here. Kate avoided his gaze, her carefully constructed facade crumbling. Did you lie to me? Brett pressed his voice, rising. Is this whole weekend based on a lie? The children began crying in earnest, now confused by the adults' conflict. I felt a pang of sympathy for them despite everything. You have 30 minutes to gather your belongings, Mike stated firmly. I will wait outside to ensure your departure proceeds without incident. As the sheriff stepped outside to give them privacy, the reality of their situation finally seemed to sink in. Kate moved mechanically, directing the children to collect their toys, while Brett angrily stuffed clothes back into suitcases, periodically shooting accusatory glances at his wife. You humiliated us, he hissed at Kate when the children moved out of earshot. You said this was all arranged. You said you owned part of this place. I thought the filing had gone through, she whispered back defensively. It was supposed to be a surprise for your birthday. A surprise, Brett's voice dripped with sarcasm. Getting ejected by police is certainly surprising. I busied myself in the kitchen, giving them space while staying within sight. Part of me felt vindicated, witnessing their discomfort, but another part, the part that had once loved Kate, felt hollow at seeing her so diminished. 25 minutes later, they were loaded back into their Range Rover. Kate made one last attempt, as she passed me at the door. "Liam, this is petty, and you know it," she said quietly. "We could have worked something out, like adults." "Like the adult way you surprised me with divorce papers," I replied evenly. "Or the adult way you showed up unannounced, claiming rights to my home. This is not pettiness, Kate. This is a boundary." Brett honked impatiently from the vehicle. With a final frustrated glare, Kate joined her new family, and the Range Rover disappeared down my driveway, escorted by Sheriff Mike's vehicle. The silence they left behind felt like a physical presence, at once heavy and liberating. I spent the evening cleaning up the evidence of their brief invasion. Toys forgotten under the couch, a hairbrush in the bathroom, wine glasses with lipstick smudges. Each item a small reminder of how close I had come to losing control of my sanctuary again. Sheriff Mike returned after ensuring they had left my property entirely. "They are headed back toward Bozeman," he confirmed, accepting the coffee I offered. The husband looked pretty steamed. "Not sure your ex-wife is having a pleasant drive home." "Thank you for coming so quickly," I said, meaning it sincerely. Mike surveyed the cabin appreciatively. "Place looks amazing, Liam. Those solar upgrades you mentioned working on came out great." "It is evolving," I acknowledged. "Like everything else, I suppose." We sat on the porch watching darkness settle over the lake. The same view Kate and I had once admired, while dreaming of our future. "You know," Mike said after a comfortable silence, "standing up for yourself like that, it is important. Too many folks let themselves get pushed around because confrontation feels uncomfortable." "It does feel uncomfortable," I admitted. "Part of me wanted to just leave and come back after they were gone. But you did not," he pointed out. "You protected what is yours legally and properly." After Mike left, I called David to update him on the situation and discuss preventative measures. By morning, I had authorized him to send Kate's attorney a formal cease and desist letter, along with copies of the security footage documenting the attempted occupation. "We should also file for a temporary restraining order," David suggested. "Given the brazen nature of this attempt, there is reasonable concern she might try again." I agreed, though. The thought of needing legal protection from the woman I once planned to raise children with felt surreal. The next week brought practical changes. I installed a security gate at the property entrance with keypad access. The old locks were replaced with smart locks that logged every entry. Motion sensors now covered the perimeter, sending alerts to my phone if triggered. But the most significant changes were internal. Somehow confronting Kate and Brett, watching them retreat in defeat, had provided closure I never got during the divorce. Seeing Kate's shock at how much the cabin had evolved mirrored my own growth since she left. For the first time, I invited a group of friends over for a barbecue, fellow craftsmen, neighbors, even Mike and his wife. The cabin filled with laughter and conversation, no longer a shrine to what might have been, but a celebration of what was. 2 weeks after the confrontation, I found myself sketching plans for a cabin extension, a dedicated gallery space to showcase my furniture designs for visiting clients. The pencil moved confidently across the page, mapping a future I was eager to build. I realized then that the true transformation had not been to the cabin at all, but to me. The man who had once been devastated by betrayal was now creating something new and entirely his own. The pain had not disappeared. It had been repurposed, like reclaimed wood, finding new life in a beautiful creation. Looking out over the lake, I thought about the children who had briefly played in my living room. I felt sorry for them, caught in adult conflicts not of their making. But I also recognized that protecting my boundaries was not just about physical property. It was about honoring the life I had rebuilt from the ground up. Sometimes the most valuable things we create are not built of wood and stone, but of resilience and self-respect. And I was only just beginning to understand the full blueprint of the life I was constructing. Have you ever had to stand up to someone from your past who tried to take advantage of you? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences. And if you know someone dealing with boundaries after a difficult relationship, sharing this might help them find their own strength. Thank you for joining me today. Remember that rebuilding after betrayal is not about erasing the past, but creating something stronger on the foundation of who you have become.